Welcome in here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Good to have you with us, whether you're watching on TV, online, or listening on the podcast, wherever you listen to those. We have a good show today. Again, it's one of those weird periods right now, especially in the summer. Not a ton of local things to catch you up on, but I do want to open up with one thing. Jackson College, by the way, great new facilities there, and they just had the ribbon cutting not too long ago for the new Jets Air Station, and that's open as well for free to go in there during the summer. Pickleball, basketball, volleyball courts, and a walking track around the outside, so check that out. But while you're out at Jackson College, youth soccer players ages 5 to 14 invited to have fun and learn new skills at a youth soccer camp at JC held August 15th and 16th coming up from noon to 2 p.m. Additionally, campers invited to attend the women's soccer team's friendly match on that Saturday, the 17th, and participate in a pregame walkout ceremony with the players on the field. Cost is $50 with a discount of 10 off for each sibling after the first registered per family. jccmi.edu/youth soccer camp. Again, Jackson College Youth Soccer Camp, August 15th and 16th. And keeping it local here for a minute, I feel like summer flies by faster and faster each year. And I can't believe we're under a month already now from high school football starting. And we'll have more details about our broadcasts here on JTV coming up as we get closer to the season. And coming up, we will have our JTV football media days as well. So stay tuned to our shows next week for a couple of interviews from some local teams and players previewing the season. So that's going to be a lot of fun to be able to share that with all of you. So really excited for football, and I think it'll be a great season. It'll be our 25th season of high school football here on JTV. So thanks to all of our viewers and sponsors for helping us get to season number 25, a quarter of a century already, that 25 years. So we've got some great games, too, we're going to feature. So more details on that as we get closer to it. And now that we've got JC Youth Soccer Camp, again, August 15th and 16th, a lot of high school football content coming up on this show. Again, biggest sports headline for the next still a couple weeks. The Olympics continuing. The current medal count updated as of this morning, Wednesday. Total medals, the U.S. 27 so far. France in second with 21. The host country, Great Britain, with 17. China with 16. And a three-way tie for the top five. Japan, Australia, and Italy with 13 each. The Team USA men's basketball playing today, South Sudan in group play. We talked about it on our first show. This was a team with South Sudan that when they played an exhibition already against both countries not too long ago, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but South Sudan almost beat Team USA. It took a game winner from LeBron James to beat South Sudan. And there's a lot more, we mentioned in the last show too, there's a lot more international or NBA players on other countries for the Olympics representing their own country versus like the 92 Dream Team, for example. There might have been one or two other NBA players on other countries. And now it's spread out, and there's a lot more talent in these Olympics for this sport. So I watched the exhibition, and I watched some of the highlights again recently, and I'm interested to see how the actual game goes now that we're in the Olympic play. It's group play, and this actually matters, you know what I mean, versus the exhibition. Now, that was still a close game there, but I'm interested to see how the actual game goes, though.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, you got to believe that they're going to win this game.
Right, and I think they will.
Yeah.
And it's just how close it's going to be.
For sure. And I think that they'll probably win what we would have thought, how much we would have thought at the beginning of the year,
Right.
compared to most recently. So probably like the betting line would be off, I would say, because it's probably like 30. It's probably like 20 something points, and it probably should be like 40 after that last game. So
Right. It should be a lot more margin of a win than what it usually ends up
for
being.
sure.
And we saw that in the exhibition game. I mean, Team USA only won by 1 point against South Sudan. So I can't think off the top of my head any NBA players that play for South Sudan right now.
Only thing I know is that Luau Dang is on the coaching staff. That's the only
Okay.
thing I know.
Because I know he retired from the NBA a few years ago, but I didn't know he came back to coach his home country. So a little bit of NBA talent, obviously a lot on Team USA. They're all NBA players, but some talent on both teams. So I'm excited to watch that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that again on next week's show on Monday, because in between this show and next Monday they play again Saturday morning against Puerto Rico. Now, I don't think there's any NBA players on Puerto Rico, so that game I don't think for sure will be as close as South Sudan. And with another sport for Team USA, the gymnastics, Team USA won the gold medal in the team event. And shout out to Simone Biles now, who's the most decorated gymnast in history, 8 Olympic medals. So congratulations to Simone Biles and Team USA. Of course, also want to thank the Insurance Circle Agency helping us bring you today's show, 269-200-2905. I gotta ask, because I forgot to ask you this, Adam, on our last show. You know, we were talking briefly. We on Peacock, you can you look at every single sport
Sure.
that's on there, and you pick which one. I probably know what it's in general what your favorite sport is, but when it comes to the Olympics, do you have any sports off the top of your head that you usually don't watch or ever watch, and then you see it on the Olympics? You're scrolling through all the sports. Do you have any sports like that you are, I guess, either entertained by or like to watch? Because there's quite a few that I was scrolling through, and it's like, well, I guess I never really realized, watching those sports.
Sure. Yeah. I'm so happy you asked this. So, for some reason, I've always liked swimming, and I think that probably stems to the Michael Phelps. I was
Right.
growing up with Michael
Yeah.
Phelps was the man. So, but other than that, handball is the greatest
Yeah.
thing I've ever seen. I love watching the sport of handball, water polo. Those would be two that
I
I would
remember
say.
playing handball in school, actually.
So it's so much fun.
It
It's so
is.
much fun. It's so much fun to watch. Like, I don't know. I get a kick out of it.
And speaking of Michael Phelps, he was just named. ESPN came out with their top 100 athletes of the century, and Michael Phelps was number one. So
Oh, he was number one. That's so funny because in the office we've been talking about who's going to be number one on that list for a while. Talking about LeBron and all these other people, but I think I brought up Usain Bolt as a potential pick. But
yeah,
that
I
is a
just
great pick. Being
I didn't
Phelps.
think of him at first, like right off the top of my head. Somebody who I think could be number one. Obviously, LeBron on there. Tiger maybe. I guess 2 or 3 others, and then Michael Phelps is on there. Now, I'm not arguing that he can't be number one. Obviously, he's the best swimmer ever. But I'm surprised though that he was number one though. You know what I mean? So it's and then I don't remember exactly where LeBron was at on the list. At top 10,
I would
for
assume he
sure.
would be top 10. And I mean, you look at Phelps, he dominated his sport, absolute
Right.
dominance of his sport, like to where like he was just body lengths ahead of the guy in second place, like most of the time. So
Right.
he did dominate his sport. So I think that's deserving. I don't know
It
who
is.
else I put above that. So
Well, I mean, other than him, it's either Tiger or LeBron.
and it's like Tiger had that time period where he wasn't winning every year, and
Right.
then LeBron, he didn't win a championship every year, but it's like Phelps consistently would go to where he would go to the Olympics or go to the World Championships and win and break his own world records. Is just crazy.
Yeah, and he's a lot of people don't realize, unless if you're like an avid viewer of swimming, he was breaking his own records, like you just mentioned, just championship and then Olympics. Just each year after year, he's breaking his own records and just collecting more gold medals. So it's very deserving that he is definitely the number one rated athlete. Now I know LeBron didn't win a championship every year, but he made the NBA Finals, what, 9 years in a row, was it, or 10? Or
Yeah, and he was still incredibly dominant. But like I look
Right.
at Phelps' dominance like Simone Biles, where it's just like she
Right.
is just the face of that sport. Like we're talking
Yeah.
about sport.
And there's no discussion about it.
No, but like with LeBron, you could say, oh, LeBron, Kareem, Will, like you could name a bunch of people where I feel like with
Mike.
yeah, with them. How did I not mention Jordan? With them, it was he is the face, pretty much. But with them, they are their sport. So for sure, I would put those two. I'd probably put, Serena Williams at the top, stuff like that. So
And even talking about like the face of the sport, especially like later mid 2010s, because it's been almost 10 years now since Steph Curry's become Steph Curry. So in these recent few years, you could make a case Steph Curry or LeBron as the face of their sport. But then again, when it comes to swimming, no doubt Michael Phelps. So absolutely deserving to be number one. I wouldn't change that. So we still have a lot to get to on today's show. The Tigers trade deadline was yesterday. The Tigers made a couple of moves. One pitcher, Tariq Skubal. I think some people were worried that he was not going to be with the Tigers today.
I was worried.
Yeah, I think all of us were worried. And he's still with the Tigers. Don't worry. But they made a couple of other moves. Mark Canha and Andrew Chafin and a couple others were shipped to other teams. So a lot more to get to. NBA media rights, the NFL, a lot more to cover. So we'll get into Tigers trade deadline when we come back. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Our show today brought to you by Insurance Circle Agency, 269-200-2905, myinsuranceCircle.com. Talked about it before the break briefly. Little teaser, Tigers MLB trade deadline yesterday evening. Now, a lot of people were worried that Tariq Skubal was going to not be with the Tigers today. And he is. So a lot of people can finally start breathing again, because I think everybody was holding their breath for the 1 or 2 week, stretch of rumors that he was going to be traded. And a couple of other pieces were traded. First baseman outfielder Mark Canha traded to the Giants for pitcher Eric Silva. Mark Canha, he split time between first base and outfield this season for the Tigers. He batted .231, 7 home runs. And Eric Silva, right-handed reliever, currently at Double-A right now. So they traded Canha for Double-A from the Giants. Adam, what do you make of the Mark Canha transaction, if you will?
I think Mark Canha was interesting. He had a really good beginning of the year. Like his beginning of the year, he was one of the bright spots on the team in terms of batting. And I was happy when we got him, but he was kind of that player where it was like, all right, we have him on a 1-year deal. He's kind of a transitional spot for him, but I was hoping he was going to do something for us, and he was a good bat. But I think the more interesting of these trades was Jack Flaherty. I mean, he had such a good year. Again, another guy that was kind of similar to Canha in terms of, it's probably going to be it. It's probably just going to be this 1 year. But man, did he tear it up for us. And I knew he was going to do pretty darn good for us, and he tore it up. And now he's a Dodger, and he has a chance to win a championship this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Andrew Chafin, pitcher, was acquired by the Rangers. And the Rangers also got Carson Kelly, the Tigers catcher, for 2 prospects.
And Carson Kelly, he's great. He came in with some big bats this year, but I mean, he just didn't bat consistently enough. But still, I mean, we're getting some sort of value. I haven't looked too much into these players that we've gotten for these trades, but I still like that we were able to get maybe a little something for these guys that otherwise would have hit the end of the year, and we wouldn't have been able to do much with them. We wouldn't have gone to the playoffs. I mean, we still have a shot. We talked about that last time. We still have a shot to make the playoffs, but
it's definitely not over yet as far as the race, because they're 6.5 or 6 games back of the last playoff spot.
For sure. But like, what do you think of like a team that is that close, but still gets rid of all those 1 year guys that we were getting rid of? Like, we're still trying to, if we get to the playoffs, it'll kind of look stupid because it's like, who's our next pitcher? It's not Flaherty anymore. So
Right. And it's a Detroit sports front office, to be fair. I mean, like other than the Tigers, I'm not really much of a Detroit sports fan. So, like especially with the Pistons are atrocious to me. We'll put it that way. There's no other way to describe them, especially their owner and their GM. I would normally say in this situation something needs to change, but I don't know how much worse it can get for the Pistons, and I don't know where they go.
don't you dare say nothing where it can't get
I
any worse.
know,
Because like
but
it could, like, losing Cade and the guys that we have built, that would be worse in my opinion. Like if it actually happens and we lose these guys that we was kind of promised, like, this is going to be the future of the organization, and then they leave, and
Ivy and Duran and Cade,
Yeah,
and this is our future. And
yeah. And more importantly, Cade, just because he, but we know he's locked down right now. We
Oh,
know
right.
he got a big contract, but still.
right, but no, with the Tigers, I mean, they're still, because like you mentioned, Canna or Carson Kelly, they both had some exceptional bats here and there this year, but it wasn't really on a consistent basis. So I don't know if them leaving the Tigers now, as far as this last little push to be in still the playoff race at the end, if this will make like the biggest impact in the world, though.
Sure, but I mean, like, if we're breaking it down, like, are we buying or are we selling at the deadline? And that
Uh-huh.
usually tells you, are you going for a playoff push or are you not? We sold, like we have a lot recently, probably last
Right.
decade, we've sold at the deadline. So that's what tells me, like, okay, this this coaching staff and the GM, like, they must really not think that we are going to make the playoffs. Or if we do, and let's be honest, I'm a big Tigers fan, but we don't have, we beat them in the regular season, but in a 7-game series, we don't have enough to beat the Dodgers. We don't have enough to beat
Right.
the Yankees, even though the Yankees have slumped for a little bit, but we don't have enough to beat those teams in a 7-game series. So ultimately, I guess I'm okay with selling.
And the Tigers start their series against the Royals today too.
That's a big one. That's a big
That's
one.
a big one. We
Yep.
just mentioned the Royals on Monday's show because they weren't very good for quite a couple of years after that year they made the World Series, but they weren't great for a couple seasons, and all of a sudden I didn't realize till we did the show Monday that it's now they're 4 or 5 games ahead of the Tigers.
Yeah, and I mean they build. I feel like Kansas City builds their team perfectly for a small market team because it's like they get those guys that are just role players, and that was what their World Championship team was. Lorenzo Cain and all those guys that are just like really good playing in those spots. They go to any other team, they're not going to succeed. They're not going to be like a star, but on that team, it just fit and it worked, and that's what's happening right now with the Royals. And I hope that's what the Tigers can do, but we just don't know.
Right, absolutely. Switching gears here, the NBA, a lot of fans are disappointed. The new media deal came out. The NBA signed an 11-year media rights deal with Disney, which is ESPN/ABC. NBC, the return of, what is it, Round Ball Rock? Is that the name of the
Is that
theme?
the song?
The
The
themes?
song is
The
so
song?
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that song is so good.
NBC and now Amazon Prime Video last Wednesday, but after the NBA said they were not accepting Warner Bros., which is TNT's $1.8 billion per year match to continue the longtime relationship. The media rights deal was approved by the league's board of governors last week, and this will bring $76 billion to the NBA over 11 years. Now, Warner had 5 days to match the offer, so that means after this next 2024 or 5 season, it'll be the last for TNT after nearly a 4-decade run of the NBA on TNT. Now, Warner said they were going to take appropriate action, and they did. And the NBA rejected their match, and they basically wanted nothing to do with Warner's match. Now, Inside the NBA is the best sports show on television. I hope a ton of people don't disagree with that.
I think it's pretty unanimous to me. It's the best sports talk television there's ever been. Most entertaining, I can say, easily.
Yeah, right. And it's going to be weird. We still have one more season with them. Enjoy it while it lasts. But when it comes to October, November, early 2025, it's going to be weird on Tuesdays and Thursdays at like 7 to turn on TNT and see whatever movie they're showing now instead of Inside the NBA. Now, Charles Barkley's made a lot of comments about it, which is expected, and he's made them publicly too. He was on the Dan Patrick show last week, and Dan Patrick asked him, if Amazon or NBC or ESPN, now he's made many jokes about ESPN on the air before, so I don't see him going there, but if any of those three networks offered Shaq and Kenny and Charles a big deal for those three to come to their network, would you take it? And he said he's not quite sure yet. It would depend on the money and what games they have, the days and all those details. And TNT just extended Charles Barkley or signed him to a new deal a couple of years ago, 10 years, over $200 million for Barkley. And after this next season is over for TNT and the deal for them is done, Barkley will still have, I believe, 5 or 6 years left on that $200 million contract. And Charles said they better pay me the rest of my contract. So I think it'll be interesting. And with Prime Video, and I understand it, and they're not wrong, when the commissioner, Adam Silver, said this is going to make things more accessible, and now that everything is moving to streaming and pay-per-view. So when it comes to Amazon, it was a smart choice, I think, on their part to go with Amazon. But as far as the fans, but it's all about the money now. There's no denying about it. But if they put the fans first, and I guess anything other than just talking about the money, TNT would be there, covering the NBA until the NBA's not a thing anymore. You know what I mean? So it's the best sports show on television is going away, and I've always been a big fan of the show, and I'm interested to see how Amazon does their production with the show, and their announcers and their crew. So, and the people that we forget about in this situation is the producers, everybody in the studio in Atlanta for TNT that do the NBA. Now, some of them, I think, do other sports or other things in the building, but most of them are NBA. They're losing their jobs after next year.
Yeah, what's happening to Underdog?
Yeah, Underdog. He's the most valuable piece. If those three go to another network, he's got to go with them.
Yeah.
It's a package deal. You can't have the show without Underdog, and put that on a T-shirt. Just saying. So, all right, when we come back, the NFL, a.k.a. the No Fun League. More rules on the onside kick when we come back. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Show today brought to you by the Insurance Circle Agency, 269-200-2905, myinsuranccircle.com. Mentioned a little teaser before we went to break. The NFL, a.k.a. the No Fun League, a lot of people have dubbed it now, they're just changing more rules. Kickoffs first, and now it's onside kicks. NFL approved a new rule a couple of weeks ago. Now all onside kicks have to be announced in advance, since the onside kick will entail an entirely different formation. Also, onside kicks can't happen now until the fourth quarter only. Why? This is just really stupid. And only the team that is losing can perform an onside kick in the fourth quarter only. And you have to announce it in advance.
Well, this is gonna mess me up when I play Madden. It's really gonna mess me up.
I didn't think about Madden before we started the show. Like, how is that going to work in Madden? Are they just going to keep it the same? I hope.
I mean, usually they're so bad at making that game that they'll just miss out on it and they'll just forget to do it. But I would assume it's going to be the same.
I think they're probably already done making this year's game because it comes out sometime mid-August or late August.
Yeah. They just came out with a deep dive today about it. So yeah, it's coming out soon.
Right, and because Madden, it's literally like the exact same game every year. I don't think they'll change anything as far as this onside rule.
Next year possibly, but this year I don't think they will.
Right, I think it's a little late for this year because the game is probably already done being made. But I've seen another thing with the kickoffs. Now, I don't know if this is confirmed. We'll have to share more on Monday's show if we have time then. But you can't start running for those who aren't kicking or receiving on the kickoff. You can't start running or blocking until the ball is caught, and you're basically just standing there watching the ball go by until they receive it, and then you start running after each other.
I don't like any of these rules.
No, I don't either.
The onside kick thing, I guess, bothered me the most because the other ones you're trying to avoid injuries is definitely the reasoning. But this one, I don't know, man. It's a weird thing because onside kicks are fun. So why are we limiting when and how onside kicks can be done? Like one of the best plays in Super Bowl history was New Orleans faking the kickoff and going onside to start the second half. So it's like some of the best moments are because of this. So it's a little weird.
And they don't happen. Really, onside kicks don't happen hardly ever anymore either. So to me, it's like, who cares? They don't happen enough to where you should change the rule about it.
At least it doesn't happen enough in the first half or in the first three quarters. It doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
So it's very
Who's
strange.
already doing an onside kick in the first quarter? Like, unless if you're just intentionally doing that, like in Madden, just to upset somebody. But in a real game, nobody's onside kicking in the first quarter.
Right, and if you want to, you should be able to. I guess that's
absolutely.
My critique on it is like, I should just be able to. So, yeah, it's weird.
Right. Now, I don't know of any team ever that's done it in the first quarter or second, really early on. And you just mentioned the New Orleans Super Bowl. They did it coming out of halftime. But I don't think anybody's done it super early on, though. So it should be able to have that freedom because, again, because onside kicks don't happen hardly ever. It's like, who cares? Why are you changing the rule about it?
Well, the only one I can think of that happened early was when Pat McAfee recovered his own kick. But that was it was weird. It was because he beat the formation, so he knew he'd be able to just kick it to himself because nobody was on that side. But even that, it's like, if they mess up, I should be able to exploit them messing up. So that's even the weird thing. I feel like this is even weirder because of that. It's like, if they mess up their formation, now I can't onside kick it. I just have to kick off. I don't like it.
And I totally get the part about the regular kickoffs waiting to run and block until the return man catches it. I get the part where they want to avoid injuries literally while they're kicking off. They're running full steam at each other. But even after the returner catches it, they're still running full steam going after each other. I don't think that part of the rule in itself is going to prevent more injuries. I don't think so.
It might. I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see in 3-4 years what the difference is.
Just looking at the numbers on and see if
there's
they go down
stats.
or right. So again, onside kicks announced in advance. Like, it's just that part right there is what gets me. Now, I'm not as upset about the fact that it can't happen until the fourth quarter, because no team, I shouldn't say no team, but rarely ever in recent memory has a team, other than the couple that we mentioned, have actually done it before the fourth quarter where they're losing and they need to come back and get the ball back. But otherwise, I'm not as upset with the fact that you can't do it like in the fourth quarter only, but it's like the team that is losing can only do it, and you have to announce it in advance. And because even though these onside kicks still don't happen very often, I think these special teams coordinators have to kind of redo that part of the playbook, if you will, because you're going to know in advance you need to have something to go to right away, your formation for the onside. Now, there's a couple situations, obviously, you're winning or you're losing, and you know the other team is going to onside. That's different. But because this is a whole new thing now with the onside kicks, special teams coordinators are going to have to redo that section of the playbook when it comes to the onside kick. I saw an article earlier from ESPN that in a few select preseason games, the NFL is going to use more sky technology for line of gain, and we're moving in more of a direction where it's all, I mean, a lot of it's technology based now still, but even the line to gain, they're going to eventually get rid of the chain gang because of this. More people won't be involved with the NFL anymore, and because of that, and you never know, maybe 30 or 40 years from now, every high school will have that technology, and we won't have the chain gang next to us down on the sideline anymore.
I mean, they might. That technology stuff, I'm happy with, right? Like
yeah,
those
no, I
sort
don't
of
have a
advances.
problem with that.
I mean, how many times have we seen to where we watch the replay like 4 or 5 times on a play that should be a first down and they don't rule it a first down, and then it's like
Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah, and then there's this archaic technology that we use to measure if it's a first down or not.
The index card moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Who was that? Was that Gene? Was that
Gene
Steratore? Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, that was so crazy. I remember Joe Buck just dying laughing.
Yeah.
At that situation.
I think it was. Man, I don't remember who was doing that game. I think it was Al and Chris.
Oh, I thought it was Joe Buck. Oh, no, you're right. It was Al
and
Michaels.
Chris couldn't believe it.
Yes, that's right.
Because he literally took out the index card from his flat pocket here, pulled it out, put it right up to like the marker and the ball, and you can clearly tell it wasn't a straight line. It was, you know what I mean? Like the index card went over, like the ball went over the line, and in that moment, and that's one of the worst like missed calls, I think.
I definitely, well, and it was weird because it wasn't like a missed call like I would obviously say Jim Joyce blowing the perfect game for Armando Galarraga's but I'm just saying
different
like
sport.
Right, a different sport, but like it's, and obviously the impact was a lot bigger, but it's just like with this one, it's like you can't even really overturn it. You can't really, it's a weird thing, or it's something we haven't seen before. That one was just a missed call. Galarraga was just a missed call. Where this was like a weird
that was a big
thing in the
miscall.
rule book. Yeah, but it was like a thing in the rule book that we don't know exactly what the rules are for. Like, are they supposed to get the index card out? Like, what's the protocol in that situation?
Because nobody's ever heard of any, like, this was, when this happened, this was a shock to everybody because nobody's used anything like that before. And Gene Steratore just pulls out an index card and measures it, and it's like,
weird.
What's happening?
So weird.
But onside kicks, again, are we moving towards the no fun league now? Can we deem that as its name?
We'll see. We'll see how the season goes. We'll see how the
with
season
all
goes.
these new kickoff rules.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the onside kick. Kickoff rules, it's fine, whatever. You know, it's cool to watch a kickoff get run back, but if this is what we have to do for protection's sake and for health's sake, then that's fine. But the onside kick thing still doesn't make a lot of sense.
I think eventually, I don't know how many number of years it's going to be till this happens, but I think eventually they're going to have no kickoffs at all, just punt returns, and it's going to be like college football overtime. You start at the 25, not of the other team, of course, but you start at the 25-yard line or 20 just automatically, and then you go from there. So
it could definitely turn into that for sure.
All right, when we come back, couple more headlines to share, more football talk. The Hall of Fame game happening tomorrow night. Stay tuned. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Show today brought to you by the Insurance Circle Agency. 269-200-2905, or get the conversation started at myinsuranccircle.com. The Hall of Fame game, we talked about the NFL before the break, the new onside kick rules, the No Fun League. Well, the No Fun League is kicking off tomorrow night. Now there's going to be football every weekend until February.
Yeah.
So it's on now. Hall of Fame game, Canton, Ohio, Bears, Texans. But again, I'm not as excited. I know it's a Hall of Fame game. It's the very first game of the season, so that's exciting. But otherwise, not really, because like Stroud and all those guys, they're not playing.
Yeah, I'd be curious if you get to see any of these Bears rookies if they get to
They
play,
are
like,
the
Caleb
Bears already came out and said none of their starters are playing at all the whole
That's-
game.
That stinks because like the two guys I'd want to see most is Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. I want to see what they do, but that kind of stinks.
Right. So the Bears also just paid DJ Moore too yesterday. He became the highest paid player in Bears history. Why? What?
DJ Moore's good though. Come on, he's very good. He's a very good receiver.
He is, but
That team is so loaded now at receiver. It's so crazy because they got
Yeah.
Keenan Allen. They got Keenan Allen.
yeah, but we still own the Bears, so that's not changing though until Chicago beats Green Bay. So
It's gonna happen this year. It's gonna happen this year. We're gonna beat you guys twice, and the Bears will split.
yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Because the Bears haven't beat Green Bay since I don't remember the last time when. So
No kidding. Okay, yeah. I assume Aaron Rodgers was still playing for you guys?
yeah, and I
Was
think
Brett Favre still playing for you guys when?
no, I think
Okay.
it was an early Rodgers.
Okay. That's fine.
Because they beat Chicago twice last year, and then we split with the Lions. We beat Detroit at Ford Field on Thanksgiving, so we split.
Thanks for
um,
bringing that back up.
Yeah,
I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
I'll
Yeah.
be happy to anytime.
Yeah, and I'll always bring
Um,
up the time we beat you at Lambeau, kicking you guys out of the playoffs.
I've been there in person before when Detroit's beat Green Bay, and that was
must
my
feel
first
awesome.
time ever going to Lambeau. That was like
Wait.
20,
You were at that game?
2015 or 16.
Oh,
the
not
f-
that game.
The
Okay.
first time they won in Lambeau in X amount of years.
That's right. Yeah.
That's my very first time I ever went to Lambeau.
Oh, that
and that's the
stinks.
game that happened, and Crosby's field goal went
Yeah.
way over.
That would happen. Crosby would miss a lot of kicks against us historically. That was like
Yeah,
a thing.
Not against any other team.
Yeah, but against
just
Detroit
the
for some
Lions, a
reason.
big division game.
So weird.
And it just so happens then. And I just also happened to be at the game at Ford Field a few years ago where Crosby missed like 18 kicks. It's
You
just
were at that game?
unfortunate on my part
That
to
is
be
so
able
funny.
to those games I picked to go to are the ones where the worst things happen. So
Well, I was at the Lions Falcons game where we lost on the. Do you remember that game?
the 10-second runoff.
Yeah, the 10-second run.
You were there?
I was at that game,
Oh.
and the feeling walking out, having Falcons fans like rub it in your face as we're leaving, was the worst feeling in the world because it's just like
'Cause
you
you just
guys
wanted
don't
to-
deserve to win that
You
game.
just wanted to punch the fans in the face.
Yeah, it was like you guys don't deserve to win this game. It was our
No.
win. So
Yeah.
yeah, that sucked.
But again, because the rules, unfortunately, in that situation, the rules the rule. Jim Caldwell didn't have any timeouts, and that's how it went. But I don't know. It just so happens it's my odds though every time
That is pretty funny.
that something happens. I've only been to Green Bay though one time where they won, so I'm one for three. And I don't remember when it was. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. We shut out Russell Wilson in Seattle, and it was snowing, and that was the coldest game I think
Oh,
I've
it was
ever
freezing,
been at.
yeah.
It had to have been like 8 degrees,
Oh my.
not even like double digits.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd rather sit in the warm Ford Field in the middle
And
of
watch
the winter
the Packers win the
and
NFC
watch the
North.
Packers lose to the Lions once
Oh,
again.
well, we'll see. Do they play on Thanksgiving again this year? I'll have to look at the schedule.
I think Lions are playing the Bears this Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
I
that's.
think we're playing the Bears.
Wait, I get tired of that every year because you know who's going to win. You know what's going to happen.
It'll be interesting because it'll be like partway through the season, so we'll see if Caleb Williams and all those guys are the real deals. Something
And by that time, J.J. McCarthy will be the Vikings quarterback too because
Possibly.
Sam Darnold sucks, and I don't
Possibly.
see him keeping a starting spot.
cool. You don't see it?
No,
I
no,
think it's
not a-
possible. He's still so young. He's like 29.
I know, and a lot of people forget that because we haven't heard his name in a while.
Yeah.
especially with the Jets, because after Sam Darnold, they went through the Aaron Rodgers for one play, and then they had like a Mike White, Zach Wilson mix for a year or two, and it just got really ugly there. So it'll be interesting to see how they do, though, in the NFC North. Real quick here, class of 2025 ESPN Plus article about eligible and potential Hall of Fame classes within the next 10 years. So these are just projections based on what ESPN thinks is going to happen for these classes. So just a couple each year. Next year, class of 2025, Eli Manning, first year of eligibility, without a doubt. Eli Manning.
Do you think that's without a doubt? Because I think we've had debates in the office whether or not he was. I know the bigger debate would be like Phillip Rivers, but does Eli Manning get in?
Absolutely.
Does he? Okay.
I think so.
I thought he did, but I would have to double check and ask.
He's a
around the
two-time
office.
Super Bowl champion.
That's what I was. That was my defense. Was like because of how many. Sure, he didn't have much postseason.
But he was
after
never
that,
an MVP though, and his only award vote was a 6th place finish in Comeback Player of the Year in 2011, and he led the league in interceptions 3 times. But 4 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowls, you beat Tom Brady twice.
Yeah, no. So I think he gets in just for those Super Bowls by themselves because players have gotten in for less than that. But it's
Right.
still the debate's still there. I think.
Right. Antonio Gates, Terrell Suggs, Jared Allen, Adam Vinatieri.
I have no
definitely.
problem with any of these people so far.
Yeah.
This next class is great.
Eligible but not selected for the 2025. Marshawn Lynch, definitely. Marshall Yanda, Ryan Khalil, Luke Kuechly.
How does Luke Kuechly not get in?
I forgot about Luke
That dude
Kuechly.
was
Honestly,
the best middle linebacker in the league when he was on.
Aqib Talib, class of 2026. It'll be the first year of eligibility for Drew Brees.
He'll be.
That's
He's in.
unanimous.
Who do you think has more? I think they'll both be in, but who has more? Who's more likely to get in, Drew Brees or Eli Manning?
Drew Brees.
Which is weird because he has one less Super Bowl
Right,
but he has
Drew
better
Brees
stats.
had the passing record,
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
at one point. So Frank Gore, Larry Fitzgerald, Jason Witten, Richard Sherman. I have no problem with all of those guys. And then eligible but not elected, Phillip Rivers, first one on there.
Oh, and that was what I was saying. Phillip Rivers is an interesting one.
Alex Smith? That's an interesting
He doesn't
one.
get in. No way.
No way.
he gets in.
Julian Edelman, Des Bryant, Greg Olson.
I would say no on Dez, probably no on Greg Olson. Is Antonio Brown at all on this list? Because he's got to come up eventually, right? That's got to
Now, he's not where I'm looking on 2027 so far, and he's not on here. Rob Gronkowski's class of 27,
be he'll
Marshawn
be first ballot.
Roethlisberger, eligible but not selected, Cam Newton, Antonio Brown.
Oh, there's Antonio. What do you think
So-
about Antonio Brown? He was the best receiver in the game when he played.
For a couple years, too.
Yeah. Entertaining speech. That would be the most entertaining Hall of Fame speech. Would be Antonio Brown. Like, let him stand up there at the podium and talk for 20 minutes like Kanye West. It would be awesome.
I think the TV cameras would have to turn off
Yeah,
after some
everything would
point.
be on delay.
Yeah. But between, though, 2013 and 18, he was best receiver in the NFL. He averaged over 1,500 yards a season. So right away, in a normal case, that'd be a Hall of Famer right away. But he has no Super Bowls and not real big playoff success
He has
with
one
the
Super Bowl.
Steelers.
He has one Super Bowl. Tampa Bay.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
He has one Super Bowl
Tampa
championship.
Bay.
He was
Yeah,
the best
but
receiver in the
it's-
league when he played. Does Julio Jones make the Hall of Fame? I would say yes, and I would say
I would put it up for debate.
oh,
I would.
what?
I wouldn't say like guarantee.
Really, you don't think that Julio Jones makes it? Like, sure, the end of his career wasn't as good, but Julio Jones, when he was the guy, he was
Right after
unstoppable.
Antonio Brown's peak of being the best ended, then it was Julio Jones for a couple years.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it shakes out, but they were definitely. It was if it wasn't Julio at a point, it was Antonio Brown. If it wasn't Antonio Brown, it was Julio as being the best. So I think they both make it. I think Antonio Brown takes longer, but I think they both make it.
And I think Julio Jones gets in, but I think it's more of a debate. I don't think it's like a guarantee to me, at least.
What's more of a debate, AB or Julio? Like if you right
I
now
would
had
say
to make a
Julio
decision,
Jones.
is more of a more like
More
up
of a,
in the air?
a discussion.
Really? Oh, it's the opposite for me. It would be the opposite for me. But I'd be curious. I'll look at, how about this? I'll look at their stats, and I will bring it to the next show, and we'll see. We'll compare the stats.
Monday. Let's do it Monday. Then we'll talk the rest of the classes too on Monday. So.
I love it. I love it.
All right, well, that's about it. Appreciate everybody watching on TV, watching online, listening on the pod. Brought to you by the Insurance Circle Agency. Have a great rest of your week. We will talk to you Monday.